Jeff Campman, you wrote this up. The Moorfield-powered ZenFone 2 is available for $199 unlocked. This is from Asus.
Correct.
And that's cheap, right, for what looks like a full-feature smartphone.
Yeah, it's a pretty spectacular value. It's a 5.5-inch 1080p phone. It's got a 13-megapixel camera. The base configuration comes with 16 gigabytes of storage and 2 gigabytes of RAM and an Intel Atom Z3560 processor. That's pretty good. But what's really interesting about this phone is for $100 more, you get a Atom Z3580, which is the same CPU that was in the Dell Venue 8 7000. You get double the RAM. It has 4 gigabytes and 64 gigabytes of storage. And, that's pretty incredible.
Oh,
so it's $299 unlocked, right?
So it's $300 for the one that has 4 gigs and the faster CPU.
Right.
Which must be this one that I'm holding up right here. Anyway, you just totally, like, I was illustrating as you're speaking, but
yeah.
I did stop by the launch event for this in New York City and picked one up.
Cool.
And I'm going to be looking at it, but I wanted to spend some actual quality time with it before we go any further. But it looks really nice, right? And this is a big deal for Intel because it's a nice, like, feature phone. Jeff, I think this is probably better than the OnePlus One.
I've been looking. Well, it has a couple of things that the OnePlus One doesn't have. It has the micro SD slot, which is kind of a big deal, and that's the biggest one for me. Yeah. It has more RAM. I'm not sure if that's going to make much of a difference, but it's also cheaper. It's the $300. I think it's $350 for the 64 gig OnePlus One.
Yeah, and
the entry level model is actually quite a bit cheaper. I think it's $300 for the OnePlus One, and this is sort of $100 cheaper for slightly less RAM and not the high-end CPU, but for a completely unlocked phone with a 1080p screen, I mean, that's pretty impressive.
Well, and this is a big deal for Intel because they have, interestingly, they've kind of made inroads into the Android phone and tablet markets. They did that, like the Dell Venue 8 that you reviewed, Jeff, really is one of the better Android tablets that you could buy. And the Android tablets have not been in a great place, but the Venue 8 is among the best right now. And now Asus comes in with this, and it's not necessarily, like, they're still higher end like the Samsung stuff, but amongst that sort of second tier of phones, this looks pretty attractive and is kind of a big deal for Intel. It's also a big deal for Asus, who made the Nexus 7, which was a big hit. They've done the Transformers, which have been nice, and they've done phones in other markets, and just like 1 or 2 earlier leaked ones into like 1 or 2 small carriers or something. But this is T-Mobile and AT&T, and it's more a broader release, I think, coming into the North American market. So, or at least U.S. I don't know about Canada. Do you?
I haven't heard anything.
Okay. Anyway, so it's kind of a big deal just from that standpoint. So I'm curious about it's got 4 gigs of RAM, but it's going to emulate ARM on the x86 processor in here. So there's going to be some memory overhead there. So how is this compared to like an x86 native 3 gig like a OnePlus One? But Jeff, I got to say, having used it just a little bit, just doing basic stuff, it's really freaking fast and smooth. Like, it really feels good. So,
well, the Dell tablet is great in terms of usability, and it's pushing an even higher resolution screen. So,
yeah, and that's important. I'm not sure that they're going to win all the benchmarks, but they seem to have gotten the usability stuff right. And honestly, that's what matters more, right?
Well, and they've gotten the pricing and the fact that they're making it available unlocked with stuff that at least I want. Like, I want a micro SD slot. It makes the base model really attractive, especially at $200. What I'm really curious about is the UI. How much like stock Android is it, and how much of the stuff that they've changed is better or at least neutral as opposed to like TouchWiz?
It's not as bad as TouchWiz. It's not as chunky, slow, like and all that. There are some things that aren't great. I don't know if you can see, but it's, instead of rounded corners, they're squared off because they had to do that. I don't know. But it's, if you're used to Lollipop, this is Lollipop skinned. And it has more junk when you pull down the settings menu. I'm trying to get this out of my light here. Like more icons right there. This is not the whole settings page. It's just that second menu where you slide down more. And there's like more junk. It's not hard to use or navigate so far. And the look is pretty consistent. It's not totally ugly. You know how it is. I'd rather be running Lollipop straight than this. But there are a few things that they did that you want because they're extra features, right?
The other interesting thing too about this is, I don't think we covered it, is that they said that they will be releasing a way to unlock the bootloader for people who want to install other things. So that could also be attractive if you want to play with it.
Yeah, could be.
So
I have to say I've got several Lollipop-based devices, and this is the smoothest running one by far. The really Lollipop experience hasn't been great on a lot of things, but this one it's well integrated and seems to be quite good. So I'm pleased with that. The other thing that I'm not so sure about is here's the biggest downside is the lock unlock button is on the top up here along the top edge. And it's kind of they kind of did the LG G3, G4 type thing where the button's on the back here for volume up, down, and then this is lock. And this lock button is small. It's kind of hard to actuate, and it's not got a lot of positive feedback on it. It is clear, like Steve Jobs would have someone's head for that, right? I mean, it's one of those things where you look at it, you go, okay, rookie mistake, right? And it's surprising to me because Asus makes really good stuff, right? They didn't make some of those mistakes, but like they were in the Nexus program with the Nexus 7, right? And the volume control, it just bugs me. I don't want to press on the touchscreen, but I kind of have to change the volume because it's hard to get leverage to. So I don't know about that button placement.
Does it at least have tap to wake for the screen?
Yes. Yeah, it just did it for me after you asked. So that's good. And in fact, I probably would just wind up using that because the top button stinks.
I never used the button, but it would annoy me having it on top. They do a weird thing on one of their 7-inch tablets too. I think they put the power button on the opposite side that it usually is. I don't know. They want to have their own conventions or.
Keep them guessing, man.
Just agreed on stuff like that,
Right. No, I mean innovation. It's like a keyboard, right? You're going to innovate in keyboards. Don't do it with your key layout, idiot.
Or at least explain to me why this is better. Like, I can't imagine any scenario where having the button on the very top is a desirable thing.
Yeah, it's hard. It's a little awkward, and so I don't know. It's nice though. It's a little thick, but it's curved to the edges, so it's not bad.
It's all plastic, right?
There's no metal. It's kind of a brushed metal looking plastic, and then with the review unit, I got a case that has this pops off, the back pops off, and then the case pops on, and it has a flip cover.
Interesting.
So it doesn't get any thicker when you put that case on because it's a custom back. So that's pretty good. With that cover on, it's still like thicker than the iPhone 6 Plus with the leather Apple case, but it's not that much thicker. And I don't know. It's super cheap compared to you have a lot of these for the price of a 6 Plus, and a 6 Plus has 1 gig of RAM, which is the worst thing about it. Actually, is the amount of RAM. So there aren't many things bad about a 6 Plus, and honestly, the display on this Asus it's got to be IPS. I haven't even looked at the spec, but it is not in the class with the latest Apple and Samsung stuff at all. Where those two guys are really going at it loggerheads about the best possible display, and the OLEDs from Samsung are like gorgeous to make you melt, and then the Apple stuff is like rock solid at off viewing angles and super high contrast. This is neither of those, so it's not as good. It's still a really good IPS display, but the big dogs have taken it to another level, and this, cheaper, but you're not getting that.
Right.
Yeah. So
is the battery removable because you can take the back off?
I don't know. I haven't taken the back off. If you want me to turn it off, I could do some surgery here.
I don't think you can get the back off, but I don't think the battery itself is removable because it has this fast charging tech. I think that's how companies are making up for this now, where you can just plug it in for 40 minutes or something, and it gets to like 60% of a charge.
Okay.
The fancy version comes with a special charger for that by default, but then you have to pay $30 to get that with the base model, which, then you're already most of the way to the fancier version.
I'm not getting the back off while we're talking, guys. It's not going to happen. So I'll check it out. Let you know, Jeff, but I haven't done that yet. I need to, I guess, if I want to put the flip case on it, but I don't want to put the flip case on it, except for that if I drop it, then I'll wish I put the flip case on it. So, I don't know.